Jimmy Haslam didn't just make a quarterback change. He overrode his head coach. That's what makes this decision to start Shedeur Sanders so striking. For months, Cleveland's front office had treated Sanders like a gamble, too risky to bet on despite flashes of brilliance. Haslam's move wasn't just a nod to Sanders' talent. It was a rebuke of Kevin Stefanski's caution. And in a league where timing matters as much as talent, this was long overdue. Sanders wasn't waiting for permission. He was waiting for someone in power to stop being afraid.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
What we're seeing now is the Browns choosing direction over doubt. The locker room has responded. The offense has come alive. And for the first time in a long time, there's belief coming from the field, not just the front office. Stefanski's grip on the roster might be loosening, but the team's identity is starting to form around Sanders. It's not about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving the Browns can finally get something right. Kevin Stefanski is officially in panic mode because Jimmy Haslam just made the call that could reshape the future of the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur Sanders is starting. And no, this isn't a drill. After weeks, if not months, of hesitation, power struggles, and painfully predictable losses, Jimmy Haslam stepped in and confirmed what fans, analysts, and half the locker room have been screaming for. Shedeur Sanders will lead the Browns in the next round of games. It's not just a lineup change. It's a declaration. A statement that the Browns are finally ready to stop tiptoeing around their future and start acting like a team that wants to win. Now, this isn't coming out of nowhere. The writing's been on the wall for a while. Dillon Gabriel has had multiple chances, multiple starts, and with each one, the narrative became harder to ignore. He's just not cutting it. The offense looked flat. The energy was gone. Momentum? Non-existent. It wasn't just about losing games. It was about losing hope. And still, Kevin Stefanski dragged his feet. Week after week, he clung to the same game plan, the same quarterback, the same outdated approach that was going nowhere. All while Shedeur Sanders, arguably the most electric, dynamic quarterback prospect Cleveland's seen in years, sat on the sidelines waiting. The team knew. The fans knew. Even opposing defenses probably knew what was coming. But Stefanski refused to budge. Why? Control. Plain and simple. That's what this all boils down to. Stefanski's coaching style has always leaned toward caution, precision, systems over instincts. But that kind of philosophy only works when your system actually wins, when your decisions build momentum instead of draining it. And right now, his system is stalling. Meanwhile, Sanders has been injecting life into this team even without starting. His presence alone has shifted the vibe inside the locker room. You can feel it, the energy, the swagger, that sense that something big could finally happen. And when he just gets snaps, the difference is immediate. The offense opens up. Players get fired up. The fans start leaning forward instead of zoning out. And yet, despite all of that, Stefanski hesitated. It's no secret that the hesitation around Shedeur didn't start with Stefanski. The draft process was already steeped in skepticism. Sanders had been projected as a top-tier talent, with analysts praising his accuracy, football IQ, and leadership. But once off-field concerns started surfacing, everything shifted. Suddenly, his stock dropped, not because of what he did on the field, but because of narratives built around things that had little to do with playing football. That's the trap teams fall into every single year. They overcorrect. They convince themselves that personality quirks or media drama matter more than tape, more than talent. And Sanders paid the price. He slipped, and Cleveland, to their credit, picked him up. But from that moment on, it was as if the franchise didn't know what to do with him. It wasn't about talent. Never was. It was about control. Coaches want players who fit into their blueprint, who don't shake up the hierarchy or draw too much attention. And Shedeur? He's a natural-born leader. He brings attention whether you want it or not. And that kind of energy terrifies a control-oriented coach like Stefanski because it threatens the system. But the irony here is brutal, because that's exactly what Cleveland needs. This team isn't hurting for structure. It's hurting for fire, for unpredictability, for someone who can rally the locker room, shake things up, and make big plays when it actually matters. And in the few chances he's had, Sanders has done that. There's no more mystery, no more what-ifs. He's shown what he can do. The only question was whether management would finally stop pretending they didn't see it. That's where Jimmy Haslam comes in. This isn't just a quarterback decision. It's a leadership decision. Haslam stepping in and declaring Shedeur Sanders a starter isn't just about this week's game. It's about pulling rank, about saying enough is enough. We're not going to let stubborn coaching or outdated thinking hold this team back any longer. It's a rare move, and a risky one. Owners don't usually get directly involved in starter decisions unless the house is on fire. And in this case, it kind of is. Because the Browns haven't just been losing, they've been fading. The fans have felt it. The players have felt it. The spark just hasn't been there. Until now. Because let's be honest, every time Sanders steps on the field, the tone changes. He plays with urgency, with purpose, with belief. He doesn't play scared. And the team feeds off that. You see it in the body language, in the huddle, on the sidelines. This isn't some flashy gimmick quarterback. This is a guy who knows how to lead. So why did it take so long? It always comes back to the same thing, the fear of change. NFL coaches, and Stefanski is no exception, tend to hold on too tight. They want certainty, control. They fear the messiness that comes with bold decisions. But bold is exactly what the situation demanded. And waiting this long may have already cost the Browns valuable games and momentum. Think about it. How many opportunities were wasted waiting for Dillon Gabriel to figure out? How many times did Stefanski double down on a plan that clearly wasn't working, just to avoid admitting a misstep? It's not just poor judgment. It's pride. And in the NFL, pride kills teams faster than talent gaps ever will. But now, that pride has been pushed aside, at least for now. With Haslam stepping in and backing Sanders, the Browns have a chance to finally break the cycle, to stop looking backward and start building forward. Because Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a potential franchise quarterback, the kind of guy you build around. Not cautiously, not experimentally. Fully. That means giving him the reins, letting him run the offense, letting him take the hits, make the throws, and build chemistry with the team, not just as a backup plan, but as a plan. Anything less is just more delay. And at this point, Cleveland has run out of time for delays. There's a reason so many NFL legends talk about timing, about seizing the moment before it slips away. And for Cleveland, that moment is now. Either you lean into Sanders and give him everything he needs to succeed, or you risk watching another generational talent walk out the door while the team stays stuck in the same tired loop. We've seen this story before. Top-tier quarterbacks mismanaged by hesitant coaching, teams that take too long to commit, promising rookies bench for safe veterans until the season's already over. And then, by the time change comes, it's too little too late. But it doesn't have to be that way. Haslam made the right call. He saw what needed to happen and didn't wait for another bad loss to make it official. That kind of decisive leadership is rare. But it's exactly what turns struggling franchises into contenders. It's how dynasties start. Not by playing it safe, but by betting big on talent and backing that bet all the way. And let's be real. Shedeur Sanders isn't just some Hail Mary attempt to shake things up. He belongs in this league. He has the arm, the vision, the leadership, and most importantly, he has the belief of the people around him. Players want to play for him. Fans want to root for him. The only thing left is for the organization to stop hesitating and go all in. No more holding back. No more seeing how it goes. Sanders deserves better, and so do the Browns. Cleveland has spent years stuck in the mud, cursed with potential that never quite materialized. But this is a real shot at breaking the cycle. Not just with wins, but with hope, with belief, with the kind of quarterback who doesn't just play the game, he changes it. So here we are. Stefanski is out of timeouts. The decision's been made. And the next few games are going to be a referendum, not just on Shedeur Sanders, but on the Browns' ability to evolve. Is this the beginning of something new? Or just another chapter in Cleveland's never-ending identity crisis. That part's still up for grabs. But one thing's clear. If the Browns want to be taken seriously, they better back Sanders like their future depends on it. Because it absolutely does. If you've been following the chaos and waiting for Cleveland to finally wake up, drop a comment and tell us where you stand. Should Stefanski be held accountable? Can Sanders really turn this around? And while you're at it, hit like, share this with your fellow football fanatics, and subscribe for more deep dives into the madness behind the headlines. The season's just heating up. Because here's the thing, this move isn't just about a quarterback swap. It's about shaking the dust off a franchise that's been stuck in survival mode for way too long. It's about finally pulling the trigger on a future that's been sitting in plain sight. And if you're Stefanski, this is your alarm clock blaring at full volume. You got your job on the line, a fan base that's run out of patience, and now an owner who's decided he's done waiting. Jimmy Haslam didn't just nudge Sanders into the starting role. He made a statement, a loud one that says, I don't care about your depth charts or your coaching preferences. This kid is starting. So, what does that say about Stefanski's grip on this team? Let's not sugarcoat it. This is a power shift, public and unmistakable. A head coach getting overruled by ownership is not business, as usual, in the NFL. It's a warning shot. It means Haslam saw the writing on the wall and decided he'd rather take the reins and watch another winnable season go up in flames because of one man's insistence on playing it safe. And Stefanski? He's been playing it safe for too long. Let's talk results. The Browns' offense has been stagnant, sluggish, and downright predictable under Gabriel. And when your team plays like it's on autopilot, fans notice. Players notice. Ownership definitely notices. You can't just keep blaming execution or injuries when the core issue is your refusal to change direction. 1. Shedeur Sanders isn't a desperation move. He's the obvious move. And yet, Stefanski hesitated because he saw risk. You know what Haslam saw? Potential. The kind of potential you don't bury on the bench while your season slips away. The kind of talent you build around, not babysit. Sanders wasn't drafted to carry clipboards. He was drafted to compete. And from day one, he's shown he's got the swagger, the control, and the raw ability to go toe-to-toe with anyone in this league. So why did it take Haslam stepping in to make this happen? Because this franchise has been haunted by the ghosts of bad gambles. Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, the Deshaun Watson roller coaster. Every decision has felt like a reaction, never a vision, never a clear, confident path forward, just a series of panic pivots. And Stefanski? He's been trying to keep things too stable, too sanitized. Like if he just follows the manual long enough, something will magically click. But football doesn't work like that. You need chaos. You need guts. You need someone who steps on the field and believes, truly believes, they can turn around. That's what Sanders brings. And not just with his arm. His presence changes everything. The confidence, the tempo, the electricity. It's contagious. That's why this move matters so much. This isn't about stats. It's about belief. And right now, Cleveland needs something to believe in. They've done the veteran experiment. They've done the game manager thing. It's time to let someone with fire in his chest and something to prove take the wheel. And yes, Shedeur has something to prove. Let's not act like this path has been smooth. He should have gone higher in the draft. That's not even up for debate. Talent-wise, he was right up there with the top prospects. But once the narrative around his off-field persona took hold, teams got skittish. The media scrutiny, the baggage of his family name, the attitude, teams viewed it all as a risk. But here's what they missed. None of that ever affected his play. Not in college. Not in camp. Not in practice. And definitely not when he's got minutes on the field. He's locked in. And the chip on his shoulder? That's not a liability. It's fuel. The kind of fuel Cleveland has desperately needed for years. Think about how rare that is. A player with both raw ability and that undeniable factor. The stuff you can't coach. The way he carries himself, commands a huddle, and gets the team to care again. How do you keep that on the bench? Well, Stefanski tried. And now it's blowing up in his face. Because now everyone knows the truth. Shedeur Sanders was ready. And the only reason he wasn't already starting is because the people in charge weren't ready for him. That's the real story here. They weren't ready for a quarterback who demands the spotlight, who shakes up the hierarchy, who isn't afraid to play loud, talk louder, and lead like he's already been here for years. That scared them, because it meant letting go of the illusion of control. But Jimmy Haslam didn't blink. He looked at the situation and said, enough delays, enough excuses, enough of a head coach treating the season like a slow burn instead of an urgent sprint. Shedeur's not just starting, he's taking over. And this is Cleveland's moment to stop playing like the underdog in their own story. No more hiding behind safe picks or safe plays. No more betting on maybe guys when you've got a definitely guys standing on the sidelines. Shedeur Sanders is a now and the future. Period. And if this move works, which it should, then we're looking at a total shift in how the Browns operate. Because suddenly you have a reason to build. You have a real leader under center. And the rest of the league, they're going to have to take notice. No more laughingstock memes. No more being the punchline. If Shedeur lives up to what he's already shown, Cleveland becomes dangerous. Not just occasionally good. Dangerous. But it's going to take full commitment. Not half measures. Not we'll evaluate week by week. It has to be all in. Because if you hesitate now, if you start playing the matchup game or fall back on experience, you kill the momentum all over again. This is the test. Can the Browns let go of the fear? Can they finally learn from the missteps of the past and trust the talent they actually have? Or are they going to fumble this like so many times before? That part's still unfolding. But the pressure is officially on. Stefanski no longer gets to play the conservative card. He's either on board with Sanders leading this team, or he's on borrowed time. The leash just got shorter. And the fan base? They've been watching every move. And for once, they're hopeful. Because even after all the drama, all the letdowns, and all the missed opportunities, there's still a belief that this team can be great. That maybe this is a turning point. But that only happens if they stop running from change and lean into it. So if you're a Browns fan, or even just someone who's sick of watching potential get wasted, now's the time to make your voice heard. Do you trust Shedeur to carry this team? Was Jimmy Haslam right to step in? Should Stefanski still be in the driver's seat at all? And now that the switch is official, all eyes are on what happens next. Because this isn't just a storyline anymore. It's Cleveland's gamble in real time. And the stakes? Nothing less than the future of the franchise. You can feel the tension building. The buzz is back. Not because everything's magically fixed, but because, for the first time in what feels like forever, there's a sense of direction. A decision that actually pushes a team forward, instead of circling the drain with safe mediocrity. That's what Shedeur Sanders brings. Not just hype, but momentum. And Cleveland hasn't had that in years. But let's not get it twisted. This is not going to be a smooth ride. The pressure on Shedeur now? Astronomical. He's not just stepping into a starting QB role. He's walking into a franchise weighed down by years of frustration, bad decisions, and playoff letdowns. Every snap he takes, every throw he makes, is going to be dissected under a microscope. Every misstep, blown up into a headline. That's the price of finally getting your shot. And Shedeur knows that. He's been under the spotlight his entire career. Critiqued, doubted, labeled everything from overhyped to undisciplined to risk. But somehow, through all of it, he's still here. Still standing. Still demanding the respect that comes from proving people wrong. One play at a time. That's what separates him from the guys Cleveland has tried and failed to develop in the past. There's no deer-in-the-headlights energy with Shedeur. He's composed. He knows what he brings. And more importantly, his teammates know. That's the real game changer. When the locker room buys in, when the energy shifts, when veterans start saying, let the kid cook, you better believe that's bigger than anything you'll see on a whiteboard. Because leadership isn't about how many years you've got in the league. It's about presence, command, confidence. And Shedeur has that in spades. The team feels it. You feel it watching him. And that's exactly why Jimmy Haslam had to overrule Stefanski to make this happen. He saw what was at stake and what was being wasted. And let's not forget, this could have been avoided if Stefanski had trusted his roster. If he looked past his own need for structure and recognized that sometimes raw talent and natural leadership beat out system guys every single time. But he didn't. He waited. He played it safe. And now, his grip on this team is slipping. Because once ownership starts making calls for you, that's a very short road to the hot seat. And honestly, maybe that's what needed to happen. Maybe this is a shakeup that finally jolts the Browns out of this loop of caution and half measures. Because while other teams are out there adapting, evolving, taking swings on young stars, Cleveland's been stuck in a holding pattern, paralyzed by the fear of making another mistake. But newsflash, doing nothing is also a mistake, arguably the worst kind. Especially when you got a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders on your bench while you're dropping winnable games. That's the kind of decision that doesn't just cost you games. It costs you locker rooms. It costs you fan support. And eventually it costs you your job. So now that the switch has been made, what happens if Shedeur shines? Does Stefanski get credit for developing him? Please, let's be honest. This wasn't a strategic rollout. It was a course correction. Forced from the top because the alternative, continuing to bench the only guy bringing life to this team, was too obvious a disaster to ignore. But if Shedeur does turn this thing around, if he starts pulling wins out of games that looked unwinnable just weeks ago, that spotlight is going to shift fast. Not to Stefanski, but to Haslam, for having the guts to override the noise and back his guy. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is. A bet. Not just on a quarterback, but on a mindset. On trusting talent. On leaning into change instead of fearing it. It's risky. It's messy. But it's also real. And that's what fans are ready for. Not the carefully worded pressers. Not the vague injury updates. And we'll reevaluate next week talk. They want action. They want a reason to care. And now, finally, they've got one. So let's see where this goes. Because if Shedeur delivers, and the offense wakes up, and the locker room stays lit, and the Browns start acting like a team with purpose, then maybe this really is a turning point. The one fans have been waiting for through all the false starts and bad trades and QB controversies. But if they flinch now, if Stefanski tries to take the wheel back or turns this into some weird rotation situation to save face, it's over. The trust is gone. The momentum dies. So here's hoping they finally learned that they stick with the kid, build around him, let him lead, and stop being scared of their own potential. Because if they don't, someone else will. And Shedeur Sanders isn't going to sit around waiting forever. If you're still watching this chaos unfold and hoping Cleveland finally gets it right, hit that like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. We're not done with this story, not even close.